Welcome back, everybody. Thanks again for tuning back in. I hope you enjoyed part one of my NES collection. Again, this whole process is just a way to help me verify what I have physically compared to my crappy and poorly done spreadsheets of record keeping. I've got a really bad habit of buying doubles, and this is going to help me hopefully eliminate that. Finally get an official record, and maybe I can eliminate some items though for the NES collection, just for pure nostalgia's sake. I kind of want to have everything for it. So without further ado, let's continue on with part two of my NES collection. It'll be about the same length as the first one. First one I have here is, this is Mule. So what this is basically, I played it back in the day and I can't really remember exactly what the gameplay is like, but you're basically on a new planet and you have these mules, actual mules, which are multiple use labor elements, and basically they do all the work for you. In terms of, mining stuff. What else do they do here? They grow food, produce energy. They do all the dirty work for you. And basically, it's one of those situations where you have to get as much land as you can, get as many mules as you can, and just become essentially the richest person on the planet. This was a pickup, I want to say, at one of the Barry game exchanges that I went to. Next up, I haven't played this one, so I really have. It's one of those, it's Orb 3D. It's one of those games that sort of, they tried to hook you with the 3D glasses aspect. I have no idea what this game is, and that could be the case for a bunch of these ones, but 3D action in the ultimate one-on-one matchup. I don't care. You're out of here. One I did play, and I'm also on the hunt to get all the Tengen games for the collection. Not out of anything, special or anything like that, but just sort of have like a subset category. Anyway, one of the baseball games for the NES. This is a good one too. I think last episode we talked about. Did we talk about a baseball game? I thought we did. Baseball Stars, that's what it was. And I said it was okay, but not one of the better ones like Bases Loaded 2. I prefer this one over Baseball Stars, just for the more NES style of graphics with your chubby characters. Kemco Seika, we talked about this company twice in the last episode. One was just Kemco though. Rocket Ranger. I can't remember. I was just trying to think. There was the Rocketeer movie that came out. And I know there's a Rocketeer game. I wonder if this was like sort of like a ripoff of the Rocketeer. I don't know which one came out first. Basically, there's a world map. Again, I think it's very Rocketeer-ish. There's rooms that you fight in. There's a flying stage where you're flying this way and you sort of have to use your targeting to take down enemies and blimps and stuff like that. I know I played it back in the day. I can't recall exactly how the gameplay is. This is one of my originals from when I was a kid. Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Another LGN game. This was one of those ones where I think I tricked myself into really liking it, and it was extremely difficult. I remember the parts where you're driving through town, you're in your cartoon car, and the play control was, if I recall correctly, where you have to sort of, the direction that you move your D-pad is the way your car goes. It's not just pressing up is forward, so... And I remember I made it to Dr. Doom, is that his name? and I could never figure out how to beat him. And then obviously when you see the gameplay online, now it's pretty easy. Goddamn fucking fridge. Fuck yourself. For 2 seconds, please. Okay, so next up is, I know I played it back in the day as well. It's been a while. But this would be a game that I would buy just for the artwork. Swords and Serpents. Big fans. Big role-playing fantasy kind of guy. It's funny though, this was developed by Interplay. And they were sort of known for, what were those games that they did? Was it the... I want to say they made the Star Trek games that I played on the PC, as well as, was it Out of This World? I think that was one of their more popular ones. Anyway, not the best. It's done like sort of window based in terms of how you're moving down your hallway, but then all your stats are at the bottom. In my opinion, it was sort of a clunky style of gameplay, but what do you expect? Another Tengen game. This was definitely one that was an arcade favorite of mine back in the donut shop across the road from my high school. This was Super Sprint. This is one of those ones, I think we had mentioned it on the last episode with Ivan's Iron Man super off-road game, where it was like a 4-player game with your with the stand-up cabinet, and had the 4 wheels, and to go around the corners you would hoof the wheel and then catch it when you wanted your car to go straight. Super Sprint, I don't think it was 4-player. I think this was 3 in the arcade. And the NES one holds up pretty good to it, except, you know, the tricky part is, again, trying to have your cars go around the corners properly. You know, the arcade was so good that you could just smash that wheel and your car would sort of do a nice skid around and go. And but the NES one, it's very sticky on the D-pad. Another one that was my childhood purchase. This is my favorite game on the NES, for good reason. Super Mario Brothers 3. It's not the Left Bros one that everyone's going crazy about, but whatever. This was like even still managed to keep my little black Nintendo sticker on there. What is there to say about Super Mario Brothers 3 that hasn't already been said? Obviously, I think everyone's probably played it. I could play this game for days and days and days, and I did back in the day. This was one of those ones that came out and you couldn't believe, when you were trying to think how much better could Super Mario Brothers get and what else could they possibly do to make it better. They threw this in your face, and everyone loved it. Another one that I played back in the day, though I don't believe I ever bought it. Star Tropics. I don't think this is... I'm pretty sure I didn't buy it. Memory's a little bit hazy, but again, one of those, I call it an RPG style gameplay. Graphics, similar to like a Final Fantasy Dragon Warrior style, you know, 8-bit pixels. The key with this one though is your gameplay was you'd move, especially like when you're in the dungeons, it wasn't a fluid style like, say, Zelda. You'd move square by square by square, obviously only in a plus style formation. But even the jumping would be like you jump from square, and then there'd be like a slight pause, and then you could do a continual jump. Like it wasn't a fluid movement, but really good story. Your uncle is gone missing, and what is it? The island of Kola or something like that. Anyway, you're Mike, and you're there to go find your uncle. We mentioned Rocket Ranger, and what were the other ones in the last episode? Shit. Can't remember off the top of my head. Anyway, here's another Kemco Seika game. This was my childhood one. Shadowgate. Brutally hard game. It done in still pictures. Fantastic music. And it's one of those point and click games. The trouble with this one though is, one, I wasn't smart enough to finish it back in the day, but I'm not embarrassed to say that because tons of people still haven't finished it now. I still haven't finished it. I haven't had the balls to go back and do it, especially in one gameplay. You'd pick up certain items, and especially with the torches, there'd be torches that would have a time limit, and when you ran out of torches, stupidly enough, your character would trip and die. And there's parts of the game that you need them, and I always ended up burning them up and using them up pretty quickly because of the time limit on it. Fantastic game, just super, super hard, man. This is another childhood one of mine. Ultimate Exodus. Exodus, did I say that right? Again, I keep saying it, and I'll probably be saying it for a bunch of games. Top-down style of gameplay, very similar to Final Fantasy and Dragon Warrior. I love these games. I remember playing these on the PC as well, the Ultima series. Except on the PCs, what was it? Ultima 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know if they went to 5. I can't remember. But Ultimate Exodus, loved it. Massive, massive RPG game. I don't even think I even came close to finish it. This is one of those ones where it was like, you thought you could pump hours into playing and grinding on like Dragon Warrior and Final Fantasy. The Ultima games blew that out of the water. 100 plus hours. Here's another one that, you think this game's heavy? Ultimate Quest of the Avatar. I can't. The weight of this fucking game is ridiculous. Again, part 2. Sequel to Ultimate Exodus. Exact same style of gameplay. Very, very Dragon Warrior-esque. Even more so than I would say Exodus. More than 2 megabits of memory. Woo! Again, one of those ones where you'd buy it just for the artwork alone because it looks fantastic. A Lord British game. I forgot about that. This game sucks. Total Recall. You know it sucks because they had to include 3 scenes from the movie on the back to convince you to buy it. That's how you can tell games suck. As soon as they throw any sort of movie bullshit on the back, you know the game's balls. Yes, this was an arcade one that I played and loved. Took tons of my money. Tiger Heli. Top-down vertical shooter where you're a helicopter traveling over land and water. You know, obviously the arcade version is way, way better, but still a fun top-down shooter. I'm not a sports guy, video game-wise, but if I was to play a football game, it wouldn't be those piece of shit John Maddens. You gotta play Tecmo Bowl. These are the ones that you want. This is the one you want to play. What does it say here? Special bonus offer. Collect Tecmo's ID badges. Whatever. Really, really good football game for the NES. Why is this in this section? Whatever. Anyway, what did I say? We had shown you Star Tropics. Here is Star Tropics 2, Zoda's Revenge. Horrible name for a game. Don't like it. But again, the same style. I prefer the original Star Tropics. This one never got my nipples hard. It was, I don't know. I don't know what it was. Maybe I just didn't care anymore. I think the graphics, yeah, now they're very similar in style. For me, I found the graphics for Star Tropics to be more indicative of what OG NES graphics were and what I was used to. Again, a la Final Fantasy Dragon Warrior. And to me, in this one, they just sort of, like, there's scenes in here where, like, there's still single screen shots, but you're like in them. There's walls that have you separated in the area, you know, and they're set up like sort of 3D style to indicate like that they're high up and you can't jump over them and stuff. And to me, that just sort of takes away from the gameplay. I just prefer, if you're going to have a single screenshot, have it so that there's no walls, but your action just takes place in there. I'm not like trying to travel down, you know, right, up, just to get over to the same section of that single screen. If I want to get over there, let me walk over there. Don't let me pretend that there's some bullshit walls. Zelda 2 Adventure Link. Not my original copy. I didn't own any of the Zeldas, I think, if I recall correctly, back in the day. I did finish this. I did finish both of them. They were definitely rentals, or I may have borrowed one or two off my cousin or something like that. I like them. A lot of people hate on the Adventures of Link because the game did change drastically over the original one, especially, you know, it really became sort of a top-down game. This was more of a good chunks of it were like side-scrolling. You know, you'd have the overworld map where you're the character of Link was like this little symbol, and it was a smaller version of your character, but just the way they moved around. And then when you came up to bad guys, they had these little goofy black characters on the screen, and if you tagged one, you go into a fight screen, and then that would change to a side-scrolling battle, or even the towns are side-scrolling. I just think it was the appearance that they gave Link in those side-scrolling portions of the game that really turned people off. I liked it. I enjoyed the challenge of it. I think it's a good game. Previous episode, I had Iron Sword, which was Wizards and Warriors 2. And I guess it should have been in this one too, but I guess I sort of cataloged it as Iron Sword instead of Wizards and Warriors. Here's Wizards and Warriors. This is my original copy. I love this game. Completely underrated. But it says the journey of Kuros continues. Was this a continuation of another game? I never really remembered or could remember. Anyway, like I said, this is a side scroller, but it's got portions of the game where, you know, you're jumping up into trees and onto cliffs and stuff like that. So you can move vertically, but your character is still positioned as if he was traveling horizontally, right? But I remember buying this just for that artwork, and I think initially I didn't like it. I may have been a little bit disappointed, and then as I played it and as I finished it, really, really enjoyed the experience of playing this game. Always will have a place in my heart for Wizards and Warriors, and I wouldn't mind going back and playing it at some point. Another Tengen game. I think this one's a piece of shit, but Vindicators. Cool cover. I don't know, you're some tank or some nonsense. I haven't played it for so long, I couldn't recall exactly how the gameplay is. We're moving on into Loose now. Those were my complete in box ones. This was one that I picked up, I want to say very early this year. And this is Addams Family Pugsleys Scavenger Hunt. You play as Pugsley, and I think the majority of the game, if I can recall, takes place inside the Addams Family house. Think of that. Think of that for a second. I don't recall if not a very common game. Not that I've hunted for this thing. I've only come across it once, and when I did, I bought it. But again, I was never on the lookout for it. But I really don't remember seeing anything like that. It's supposed to be okay. I've only tried it for a little bit. Whatever. Adventures of Dino Ricky by Hudson Soft. I think this is very similar to, I always sort of Adventure Island kind of nonsense. I don't know. Speaking of Adventure Island, another Hudson Soft game, Adventure Island 2. It's funny, this one's got a little bit of sun fading on the back. The front is good. Anyway, Adventure Island 2. I never really cared for these games. I never liked the way the character controlled in terms of side-scrolling action, but if I recall correctly, the screen was always moving. And to me, I never really liked those ones. I always preferred the games where you could actually move at your own pace and sort of enjoy stuff, as opposed to being forced from left to right. Astein, I call this one Astein X. Astein X. I think it's a piece of crap. Goofy artwork. Another game that I don't know. Sometimes you gotta wonder, and it's a Jalico game, which same people that make Bases Loaded, but never understood how some people design these games artwork-wise. That's more for a kid style. I don't know if you can see. Another Tecmo game, Bad News. Bad News Baseball. I wonder if that's supposed to be a play on the Bad News Bears movies that they made. But this is one I have not played. This was a pickup from this year from a lot. FCI, so again, the same people that made Ultima Exodus and Quest of the Avatar. This is the Bards Tale. From what I've seen online, the game looks pretty good. RPG. I'm sure it'd be something that I would enjoy. Haven't tried it yet. Not one of the better Simpsons games. This is the Simpsons Bart versus the Space Mutants. you're traveling through town. You've got X-ray glasses that can help you see the aliens. And the trick is you're supposed to use your spray can to spray paint them. What was it? Anything that was like purple, you're supposed to spray paint a different color. I forget the reasoning for it. Here we go. I've talked about this a bunch of times already and brought it up. Bases Loaded, my favorite baseball game. Not that the other ones weren't good, like I said, with, where was it here? RBI Baseball and Baseball Stars and whatnot. But to me, this was, they tried to make the characters in the game look legit. You know, this was, in my opinion, like the early versions of trying to make these sports games as realistic as possible in terms of, you know, characters and stats and all that stuff. I showed my box copy of this in part 1. Here's a loose copy of Batman. Oh wait, I don't have to open the other one. And previously I'd shown, what was it? Ice hockey, which I said was one of the best hockey games for the NES. A lot of people would say this one is. I think they're both excellent games. I have more nostalgia with the original ice hockey, but I love Blaze of Steel too. The fight scenes were always what everyone was talking about. You know, you'd bump into a player, you'd start bumping and bumping and bumping, and then the screen would switch to a larger one where it's like 2 players, and you're mashing your buttons to throw punches, and I think you have like 5 health. And then whoever loses falls down, and then you'd raise your hands over your friend who you're fighting and just, you know, make fun of them. Fun game. Bobble. What's there to be said about that? It's a good one. All right, down to the final 2 for this part 2 of my NES. Was this a pickup from this year? This is either this year or last year. I can't remember. Burai Fighter. I don't know what this one is. You're in a spacesuit. To me, it's sort of, the cover art immediately makes me think of that's a tax hand game. That's that piece of crap one for the Genesis that people like. Space Harrier. This makes me think of that. And then finally, a favorite game of mine, not for playing it on the NES. My neighbor next door had an Intellivision growing up, and he had this game on there, and I fell in love with it immediately. Burger Time. NES one's pretty decent, but for me, you know, it's been unported a bunch of systems like Coleco and whatnot, but for me, Intellivision is the better and best version for this game. NES one's pretty good, but still a great game. And I'm losing my voice, so we're gonna put a stop on it. So guys, that was part 2 of my NES. Leave me some comments below. Tell me what you thought about the ones I have. Maybe if I'm way off on any of them in terms of them being crappy or good, let me know. Obviously, I haven't played everything. But if you have played one that I haven't, let me know what your thoughts are on it. And we'll see you again for part 3 coming up very soon.